In the annals of history, few civilizations have captured the imagination as vividly as the ancient empire of Carthage. Nestled in the heart of the Mediterranean on the fertile shores of North Africa, Carthage was a beacon of trade, culture, and military might. Beyond its bustling markets and thriving ports, Carthage was a city of architectural wonders. Its buildings, from grand temples to the formidable Kothon, mirrored an advanced civilization's aspirations and achievements. The urban landscape of Carthage, with its well-planned streets and sophisticated infrastructure, stood as a testament to the ingenuity and foresight of its people. Yet it was not just through commerce and architecture that Carthage etched its name in history. Its military prowess, symbolized by the legendary exploits of generals like Hannibal, was a force that shaped the destinies of empires. However, the sands of time hold tales of both rise and fall. The once great empire of Carthage, which stood as a beacon of affluence and power, eventually vanished, leaving behind ruins that whisper tales of its former glory. In this video, we turn back the hands of time to explore the rise and fall of the Carthaginian Empire. We delve into the heart of this ancient African empire, unraveling the story of how it became a pivotal force in the Mediterranean, and ultimately, how it was lost to the annals of time. Also, as a way of supporting the channel, hit the like button of the video, share and subscribe to help the channel grow. Your support means a lot to us. Origin and rise to power. Carthage's story begins around 814 BC, when Phoenician settlers, primarily from the prosperous city of Tyre in present-day Lebanon, ventured across the Mediterranean and founded a new settlement. The founding of Carthage is steeped in both historical and mythological accounts, most famously through the tale of Queen Elissa, also known as Dido. According to legend, Dido, fleeing from political turmoil in Tyre, led her followers to the North African coast. The story of Dido, immortalized in Virgil's Aeneid, intertwines romance, tragedy, and the indomitable spirit of a leader determined to establish a new kingdom. The choice of the location for Carthage was strategic. Situated near present-day Tunis in Tunisia, it lay on the crossroads of the eastern and western Mediterranean. This positioning was crucial for the development of trade routes. The natural harbors and the fertile lands surrounding Carthage made it an ideal spot for a trading hub, enabling it to grow from a modest settlement to a thriving port city. Carthage's initial growth can be attributed to its role as a center for the exchange of goods between the Mediterranean and the African hinterland. The Carthaginians, inheriting the seafaring and trading expertise of the Phoenicians, quickly established trade routes that connected them to distant lands. They traded in precious metals, textiles, ceramics, and a variety of agricultural products, which included the famed Tyrian purple dye made from the murex snail. As Carthage grew, so did its political and social structures. Unlike many contemporary civilizations, Carthage was a republic, where power was held by an aristocratic elite and exercised through a system of councils and magistrates. The most significant governing bodies were the Council of Elders and the Assembly of the People, which played crucial roles in the administration of the state and its foreign affairs. This political system was accompanied by a unique social structure. While the aristocracy held significant power, there was also a notable middle class, primarily composed of merchants and ship owners, who played a pivotal role in Carthage's economy. This social and political structure allowed for a degree of stability and flexibility, which was essential for Carthage's expansion and its ability to adapt to changing political and economic landscapes. Dominance over the Mediterranean. Carthage's dominance over the Mediterranean, an era marked by remarkable expansion and consolidation of power, is a period that vividly illustrates the city-state's prowess in trade, diplomacy, military strategy, and colonial administration. This phase in Carthaginian history saw the transformation of a modest Phoenician settlement into a mighty empire that rivaled the greatest powers of the ancient world. Carthage's strategic location in the central Mediterranean on the coast of modern-day Tunisia provided a significant advantage. It was perfectly positioned as a bridge between the rich resources of the African hinterlands and the bustling maritime trade routes of the Mediterranean. The foundation of Carthage's power lay in its extensive trade networks. As a seafaring nation, the Carthaginians were adept at navigating the Mediterranean and establishing trade links with various peoples and regions. Their ships, robust and agile, carried goods ranging from African grains to Spanish silver, facilitating not only economic growth but also cultural exchanges. Key to Carthage's trading success was its control of maritime routes. By dominating the seas, Carthage ensured safe passage for its merchant vessels, allowing for the efficient transport of goods. This control was achieved through a combination of naval prowess and the establishment of colonies and trading posts, which served as waypoints and trading hubs. Carthage's prowess in maritime trade was unrivaled in the ancient world. The Carthaginians were heirs to the Phoenician tradition of seafaring, renowned for their advanced shipbuilding techniques and navigational skills. They constructed a variety of ships, from large cargo vessels capable of transporting substantial quantities of goods to swift warships that protected their trading interests. These maritime capabilities allowed Carthage to establish far-reaching trade routes. Carthaginian ships sailed throughout the Mediterranean, venturing as far as the Atlantic coasts of Europe and Africa. Their knowledge of winds and currents was unparalleled, enabling them to navigate the seas with a proficiency that few could match. The wealth of Carthage was built on the trade of a diverse range of commodities. One of the most famous products associated with Carthage was the Tyrian purple dye, a luxury item highly prized in the ancient world for its vivid hue and durability. This dye was made from the murex snail and was a symbol of wealth and status. In addition to luxury items, Carthage traded in essential commodities that were the staples of ancient economies. These included grains from the fertile lands of North Africa, which were crucial to feeding the populations of the Mediterranean. Carthage also traded in olive oil and wine, both highly valued in ancient cuisine and culture. Precious metals were another cornerstone of Carthage's trade. The city's merchants traded in gold, silver, and copper, sourced from regions like the Iberian Peninsula. These metals were not only used in commerce but also played a vital role in Carthage's monetary system. The hinterlands of Carthage were rich in agricultural resources, providing the city with a steady supply of food and raw materials. The Carthaginians were skilled farmers, utilizing advanced agricultural techniques to maximize the productivity of their lands. They cultivated a variety of crops, including grains, fruits, and vegetables, which not only sustained the local population, but also formed a significant part of their trade goods. Carthage was not only a center of trade but also of manufacturing. The city boasted a thriving industrial sector, with skilled craftsmen producing goods ranging from textiles and pottery to metalwork and shipbuilding materials. Carthaginian artisans were renowned for their craftsmanship, particularly in the production of fine ceramics and intricate jewelry, which were sought after across the Mediterranean. The economic administration of Carthage was sophisticated, with the city's leaders implementing policies that facilitated trade and commerce. Taxes and tariffs were levied on goods, providing a significant source of revenue for the state. The Carthaginians also developed a system of currency, minting their own coins, which facilitated trade and helped in standardizing economic transactions. Carthage's trade networks were extensive, reaching beyond the immediate Mediterranean region. The Carthaginians established commercial alliances with various peoples and cities, from the Greek city-states to the indigenous tribes of North Africa and Europe. These alliances were not only economic, but often had political and military dimensions, as Carthage sought to protect its trade routes and expand its influence. Carthage's strategy of expansion involved the establishment of colonies and outposts across the Mediterranean. These were not just economic centers, but also served as military bases and cultural outposts, spreading Carthaginian influence far beyond the shores of North Africa. One of the most contested areas was the island of Sicily. Rich in resources and strategically located, Sicily was a focal point of Carthaginian expansion. Carthage established numerous settlements on the island, the most prominent being Lilybaeum, which served as a major military and naval base. The struggle for control of Sicily led to prolonged conflicts with Greek city-states and later with Rome. Sardinia and Corsica islands were crucial in maintaining Carthage's dominance in the western Mediterranean. They provided not only valuable resources, but also served as strategic points for controlling sea routes. The Carthaginians fortified these islands, making them integral parts of their empire. Carthage's expansion into the Iberian Peninsula was driven by its rich mineral resources, particularly silver. This expansion was both economic and military, with Carthage establishing a strong presence in the region. The city of New Carthage, modern-day Cartagena, was founded as a major port and became central to Carthaginian operations in the area. Society and culture. The Carthaginian society was a melting pot of cultures, largely due to its Phoenician roots and interactions with various Mediterranean civilizations. This multiculturalism was reflected in its language, art, and religious practices. The societal framework of Carthage was characterized by a stratified yet fluid structure. At the top were the wealthy aristocrats, mostly comprising landowners and merchant princes who wielded considerable political and economic power. These elites played a crucial role in governing the city through the Council of Elders and the popular assembly. Below the aristocracy there was a substantial middle class, primarily made up of merchants, ship captains, artisans, and skilled laborers. This class was the backbone of Carthage's economic might, especially in maritime trade. Unlike many ancient societies, Carthage provided opportunities for social mobility, largely due to its mercantile and maritime nature. At the bottom of the social hierarchy were the laborers, farmers, and slaves. Slavery was a common institution in Carthage, as it was in many ancient civilizations, with slaves being employed in various sectors, from agriculture to domestic service. Carthage's culture was a rich amalgam of its Phoenician heritage and the various influences absorbed from the many peoples with whom the Carthaginians interacted. This multiculturalism was evident in various aspects. While the primary language was Punic, a derivative of the Phoenician language, Greek and other languages were also widely spoken, especially in trade and diplomatic relations. Carthaginian art and architecture displayed a fusion of Phoenician, Greek, Egyptian, and local African elements. This eclectic mix was evident in their pottery, sculptures, and the design of their buildings and cities. Carthage Religion. The religious practices of Carthage were predominantly Phoenician, worshipping a pantheon of gods including Baal-Hamon, Tanit, and Melkart. Often considered the chief god of the Carthaginian pantheon, Baal-Hamon was a deity of fertility and renewal. He was commonly depicted as a bearded figure, sometimes wearing a headdress with ram's horns, symbolizing his association with agriculture and fertility. Tanit was a major goddess and is often considered the consort of Baal-Hamon. She played a multifaceted role in Carthaginian religion, associated with motherhood, fertility, and the life-giving aspects of nature. Tanit was also a symbol of the city of Carthage itself, embodying its prosperity and vitality. Borrowed from the Tyrian pantheon, Melkart was venerated as a god of the sea and navigation, reflecting the maritime orientation of Carthaginian society. He was also associated with the cyclical nature of life and death, underscoring the connection between the maritime voyages and the broader cosmological views of the Carthaginians. There was also Eshmun. Eshmun was revered as a god of healing and health, highlighting the importance of well-being in Carthaginian society. His worship was likely influenced by interactions with Greek and other foreign cultures, where similar deities were revered. Carthaginian religious practice was characterized by a range of rituals and ceremonies designed to appease the gods and ensure the city's prosperity. The act of sacrifice was central to Carthaginian worship. These ranged from the burning of incense and the offering of food and drink to more significant animal sacrifices, which were conducted in temples and at altars throughout the city. Religious festivals were common in Carthage, often marked by processions and public celebrations. These festivals served not only religious purposes, but also social and political functions, reinforcing communal bonds and the city's hierarchy. Temples were focal points of religious activity in Carthage. These structures were not only places of worship, but also centers of social and economic activity. The priesthood associated with these temples played a significant role in Carthaginian society, acting as intermediaries between the gods and the people. Carthaginian religion was not static. It evolved over time, incorporating elements from the cultures with which Carthage interacted. This syncretism is evident in the adoption and adaptation of gods from the Greek, Roman, and Egyptian pantheons. Such assimilation reflected the cosmopolitan nature of Carthaginian society and its ability to blend different cultural elements into a coherent religious framework. Architectural marvels. Carthage, at the zenith of its power, was not only a hub of commerce and trade, but also a beacon of architectural ingenuity and urban planning. Its architectural accomplishments, reflecting both the sophistication of Carthaginian society and the influence of various cultures with which it interacted, were among the most advanced in the ancient world. The city of Carthage was laid out with a level of urban planning that was advanced for its time. Its design reflected both practical needs and the city's status as a major Mediterranean power. The heart of Carthage was Byrsa Hill, a high citadel that provided a strategic vantage point over the city and the sea. Around this central hill, the city spread out in a planned and orderly manner. The streets of Carthage were well organized, typically laid out in a grid pattern, a hallmark of advanced urban planning. This grid system facilitated not only the movement of people and goods, but also the administration of the city. Major roads were wide and lined with shops and public buildings, while smaller streets and alleys branched off into residential areas. The residential quarters of Carthage were characterized by multi-storied houses, many of which had internal courtyards. These homes were often lavishly decorated, with fine mosaics and painted walls, reflecting the wealth and status of their occupants. The presence of sophisticated water systems and sanitation facilities within these residences indicated a high standard of living and an understanding of public health. Among the architectural marvels of Carthage, the Kothon stands out. This man-made harbour was an engineering feat showcasing Carthage's mastery in maritime architecture. The harbour was divided into two parts, an outer rectangular merchant harbour and an inner circular military harbour. The merchant harbour was used for commercial activities, facilitating the loading and unloading of goods from across the Mediterranean and beyond. The military harbour, on the other hand, was exclusively for the Carthaginian navy. It featured docks and ship sheds arranged around the harbour's circumference, providing efficient and secure facilities for the fleet. The harbours were equipped with massive quays and warehouses, illustrating the scale of Carthage's maritime trade. The entrance to the military harbour was reportedly adorned with two colossal columns, and the entire complex was fortified, making it a symbol of Carthaginian power and prosperity. Another significant architectural feature of Carthage was the Tophet, a sacred burial ground. The Tophet was associated with religious and funerary practices, particularly those related to child burials. This site contained a large number of stelae and urns, providing insights into the religious beliefs and practices of the Carthaginians. Carthage was home to numerous temples and religious structures, reflecting the importance of religion in Carthaginian society. These temples were often grand in scale and richly decorated, with intricate carvings and statues. The most significant deities, such as Baal-Hamon and Tanit, had large temple complexes dedicated to them, which served as centers of worship and religious activity. These temples were not just spiritual centers, they were also integral to the social and cultural life of the city. They often housed schools, libraries, and meeting spaces, playing a vital role in the civic life of Carthage. Carthaginian architecture was influenced by a variety of cultures, including the Phoenicians, Greeks, and Egyptians. This amalgamation of styles was a testament to Carthage's interactions with different Mediterranean civilizations. For instance, the use of columns and certain architectural motifs showed Greek influence, while Egyptian elements could be seen in the use of obelisks and certain religious symbols. Military and wars. The military might of Carthage was a cornerstone of its power in the ancient Mediterranean world. Carthage's armed forces were distinguished by their naval strength and a unique composition of their army, which included a significant number of mercenaries from various ethnic backgrounds. Naval power. Carthage's naval dominance was a key factor in its control over the Mediterranean trade routes and its territorial expansions. The Carthaginian navy was renowned for its advanced shipbuilding techniques, inherited and refined from their Phoenician ancestors, who were among the best shipbuilders of their time. These ships, particularly the war galleys, were fast, maneuverable, and equipped with the infamous ram at the bow, used to devastating effect in naval battles. The sailors and marines of the Carthaginian fleet were well trained and experienced, having honed their skills through years of protecting Carthage's vast trading network. This expertise was evident in several naval engagements where Carthaginian fleets outmaneuvered and outclassed their adversaries. The army. The composition of the Carthaginian army was unique in the ancient world. Unlike the citizen armies of Greece and Rome, Carthage relied heavily on mercenaries. These soldiers were recruited from across the Mediterranean and included Iberians, Gauls, Greeks, and Numidians, among others. The use of mercenaries had both advantages and disadvantages. While it allowed Carthage to field a large and diverse army, it also posed challenges in terms of loyalty and cohesion. Despite these challenges, the Carthaginian army was effective, thanks in large part to its skilled generals. Commanders like Hamilcar Barca and his son Hannibal were not only brilliant strategists but also adept at managing the diverse elements within their armies. The Punic Wars. The Punic Wars were a series of three major conflicts between Carthage and Rome, shaping the destiny of both powers. These wars were primarily fought over control of Sicily and the Western Mediterranean, but they were also a clash of ideologies and ways of life. The First Punic War. The First Punic War, from 264 to 241 BC, was primarily a naval conflict. It began over a dispute in Sicily and saw Carthage and Rome vying for control of the island. The war highlighted the strength of the Carthaginian navy, but it also revealed the resilience and adaptability of Rome, which built a large fleet from scratch. The war ended with Carthage's defeat, and Sicily became Rome's first overseas province. The Second Punic War and Hannibal's campaign. The Second Punic War, from 218 to 201 BC, is the most famous of the three, largely due to Hannibal's remarkable campaign against Rome. Hannibal Barca, one of history's greatest military commanders, took the war to the heart of Roman territory by famously crossing the Alps with his army, which included war elephants. This audacious move caught Rome off guard, and Hannibal achieved several stunning victories in Italian soil, including the Battle of Cannae, one of the most celebrated tactical masterpieces in military history. However, despite his successes in Italy, Hannibal was unable to force Rome into a decisive confrontation that would end the war. Meanwhile, the Roman general Scipio Africanus took the fight to Carthage's territories in Spain and eventually invaded North Africa, forcing Hannibal to return to defend his homeland. The war culminated in the Battle of Zama, where Scipio defeated Hannibal, marking the end of Carthage's position as a major power. The Third Punic War and Carthage's fall. The Third Punic War, from 149 to 146 BC, was initiated by Rome under the pretext of a breach of treaty terms by Carthage. The Third Punic War marked the beginning of the end for Carthage. This conflict marked the final chapter in the centuries-long rivalry between Rome and Carthage, and it was driven as much by Roman fear and resentment of Carthage's former power as by any real threat that the weakened Carthaginian state posed. After the devastating loss in the Second Punic War, Carthage struggled to recover. Its commercial activities were severely restricted by the peace treaty with Rome, and it was forced to pay a crippling indemnity. Despite these hardships, Carthage managed to regain some of its economic strength, which alarmed Rome. The Romans, led by figures like Cato the Elder, who famously ended his speeches with the phrase, "Carthago delenda est," Carthage must be destroyed, began to look for a pretext to finish their ancient rival, once and for all. The Third Punic War began in 149 BC, when Rome demanded unreasonable concessions from Carthage, including abandoning their city and moving inland. Carthage refused, and Rome laid siege to the city. The siege of Carthage was long and brutal. The Carthaginians, under the leadership of Hasdrubal and the people themselves, mounted a desperate and fierce resistance. They endured starvation and hardship, even resorting to manufacturing weapons and supplies within the city as their resources dwindled. In 146 BC, the Romans finally breached Carthage's defenses after a grueling 3-year siege. The city was systematically destroyed, its buildings were demolished, its inhabitants were killed or sold into slavery, and its very earth was reputedly sown with salt to ensure that nothing would grow there again. This act, whether literal or symbolic, represented Rome's intent to obliterate Carthage from memory. Carthage under Roman rule. The destruction of Carthage was not the end of the story for the fabled city. In a twist of history, the site of Carthage would again rise to prominence, this time under Roman rule. About a century after its destruction, Carthage was refounded by Julius Caesar as a Roman colony. It quickly regained its status as a major urban center in the Mediterranean. Under the Roman Empire, Carthage became the capital of the province of Africa and was second only to Rome in terms of size and importance in the western part of the empire. Much of Carthage's original architecture was lost when the city was destroyed by the Romans at the end of the Third Punic War. The Romans razed Carthage, and the city lay in ruins for over a century. When it was eventually rebuilt by the Romans, the new city reflected Roman architectural styles and urban planning. This Roman Carthage had its own architectural marvels, including a grand amphitheatre, baths, and the Antonine Baths, one of the largest bath complexes of the Roman world. The Roman reconstruction, while impressive, means that much of the original Carthaginian architecture is known only through archaeological remains and historical accounts. Roman Carthage was a vibrant cultural and intellectual hub. It boasted impressive public buildings, including a grand amphitheatre, baths, temples, and a forum. The city's layout reflected Roman urban planning, with a grid of streets, aqueducts providing water, and grand villas exemplifying Roman architectural prowess. Carthage became a center of education and learning. Its schools of rhetoric and philosophy attracted students from across the empire. One of the most notable figures associated with Roman Carthage was Augustine of Hippo, a key figure in Christian theology. Augustine studied and taught in Carthage before his conversion to Christianity, and his writings would have a profound impact on Christian doctrine and Western philosophy. Under Roman rule, Carthage regained much of its former economic prosperity. It became an important center for the production of olive oil and grain, which were exported throughout the empire. The surrounding fertile lands, combined with the efficient Roman administrative system, allowed Carthage to prosper once more. The religious landscape of Carthage changed significantly under Roman rule. While the traditional Punic gods were still revered, Roman and later Christian deities began to take precedence. With the spread of Christianity, Carthage became an important bishopric, and it played a significant role in the early Christian church, especially in the theological debates and councils of the time. Carthage today. The ancient city of Carthage, once the heart of a mighty empire, now lies in ruins near the modern city of Tunis, the vibrant capital of Tunisia. These ruins, a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1979, offer a poignant glimpse into the past, glories and eventual downfall of one of the ancient world's most influential civilizations. Today, the site of ancient Carthage is a significant tourist attraction and an archaeological treasure trove. Visitors to the site can walk through the remains of this once great city, exploring its storied past. Key landmarks include the Birsa Hill, with its commanding view of the surrounding area and the remnants of ancient Carthaginian and Roman buildings, the Roman Theatre, the Antonine Baths, one of the largest Roman bath complexes in Africa, and the Tophet, the ancient sanctuary that has offered invaluable insights into Carthaginian religious practices. The ruins, though reflective of Carthage's grandeur, are also a testament to its violent destruction. Visitors can see layers of history, from the Punic era through the Roman reconstruction and beyond, providing a tangible link to the past. Carthage's legacy in the annals of history is multifaceted and profound. As a major power of the ancient Mediterranean, Carthage played a critical role in shaping the political, economic, and cultural landscapes of the region. While Carthage lies in ruins today, its history would never be forgotten. This brings us to the end of this video. Tell us what you think in the comments section, as we're always interested in your thoughts. As always, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel and share our videos to let more people know the truth about blacks and to hear their own part of the narratives. Thanks for watching.